Hi, I'm John Knotgrass. I'm delighted to be here with Aaron Burns. Hey, Aaron. Good to see you today.
Hey, John. So fun to be with you today.
I've been following your work for a long time, going all the way back to Pendragon and Beyond the Mask, and you've done some cool work with filmmaking, telling good stories. And your current project is about Jimmy Stewart, who is a personal hero of mine, someone I've admired for a long time.
Mm.
So, how did you get interested in Jimmy Stewart's story?
Well, like a lot of people, I grew up watching his movies. So some of my favorites is Western, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, or Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, his big political drama. And of course, It's a Wonderful Life, the just what's one of the most timeless, inspirational Christmas films of all time. But I never knew anything about the man, Jimmy, and I assumed maybe a lot of actors or Hollywood folks that, don't get too close to your heroes or you'll be disappointed, right? But a couple years ago, I bumped into an article that Jimmy wrote for Guidepost magazine, and I was shocked when I found out that It's a Wonderful Life was the first film he made after he came back from his tour of duty as a combat pilot in World War II. I said, "Wait, he was a combat pilot in World War II?" And then the making of It's a Wonderful Life was a spiritually transformative experience for him. And when I found those pieces out that the creator of some of my favorite films had these experiences and that his journey was maybe even more interesting than any of the movies he made, I wanted to dive a little bit deeper.
Sure. And you got in touch with Jimmy Stewart's daughter, right? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I was introduced to her by another friend, a guy named Sam, who had been chatting with her over the years. He was originally from Pennsylvania about Jimmy's story and was interested in helping to get his story told. So he connected me with Kelly, and over the next couple of months, we started to explore what it would look like to work together. And because I didn't want to tell Jimmy's story without his family's involvement and blessing. And Kelly was just delighted with the portion of Jimmy's life that we wanted to focus on, that from his Oscar win through World War II and the making of It's a Wonderful Life. She said the thing he's the most proud of is his military service to our country. And the movie that was his favorite production and the best movie he ever made was It's a Wonderful Life. So she gave the thumbs up and then worked with us closely on the crafting of the script and came out to set with us when we were in Ireland, and she even let us borrow his 2 Oscars that they had to use as props in the film, so I get to hold Jimmy Stewart's Oscar that he won 80 some years ago, so, just was amazing to have her support, and when I first met her on a Zoom call, and when the camera turns on, she reminds you of Jimmy, the way she moves and talk you can see the connection there, and just to have her joyful, support of what we're doing was such a fun moment for me.
That's wonderful. So, we're talking to homeschool families here. How did your homeschool experience help equip you and prepare you for this journey of making movies and this movie particularly?
Sure. Well, I am so thankful that I got to be homeschooled as a student, and I now have 5 kids, and my wife homeschools our children, and they travel with us around the world wherever we're going to make movies. And some of the things that I think I learned, especially values from homeschooling, the ability to work together with different people of different ages, the fact that you have to get along with your whole family and do things, the openness to creativity. My mom gave me good books to read. My dad told me stories every night. They were really invested in me as a kid, and all of the reading and storytelling that I experienced taught me the power of storytelling. And they also took us on most of our vacations were to various historical sites. We'd go to Boston or to Williamsburg or Mackinac Island or other places that had museums in history and story connected to them. So that travel that we did through part of our education helped me learn some of those things. And then I guess the last two, as a kid, a homeschool kid, you have more free time in some ways because you knock your schoolwork out, you can go play. So my boys today are over with their uncle. They got all their school done by 10:30 a.m. because they got up early and stayed up late to get it done, and now they're out with their uncle having an adventure today. And so that in high school, as we started making movies together, as me and my siblings and my cousins, the flexibility and creativity that was fostered by our homeschool background, I think allowed us to have more adventures and to think outside the box a little bit differently, and to play well on bigger teams and to move into those spaces. So I'm very grateful for my parents' investment in me to train me that way, to care about me, to to teach me the values and the disciplines that I would need to move into a vocation like this. So
Wonderful. I read an article about your filming in Ireland for this movie and about the logistical challenges of getting all the uniforms and other props that you needed. And you got to work with some big name actors. So just talk a little bit about what that's like going into a film shoot and getting ready for it and then actually on set doing the magic.
yes. So there are 5 phases of filmmaking. The first one is called development, and that's the process we were just talking about. It's where every movie starts with a, "Wouldn't it be cool if," an idea. And they say, "Wouldn't it be cool if we made a movie about Jimmy Stewart in World War II?" And then from there, from getting from that point to where you are ready to launch the project, that whole phase is development. So it's the script writing, building your team, choosing where in the world to film it, finding the financial resources to pay for the film, setting up all those pieces. And that's anywhere from a couple years to maybe 5 or 10 years on some projects that you have in development for a while. Jimmy, I first started dreaming of this project, I think in 2020 or 2021. So it's already been like a 5-year journey. Once you get that piece done, you get what's called the official green light. And now the project is happening, and that launches the clock that's called pre-production. So that for us is several months of prep here at home, and then transition to Ireland was like 8 weeks on the ground. And that's when the team grows from just my core team of 7 or 8 people into 100 people, and they're making the costumes. We built a B-24, which is the airplane that Jimmy did most of his missions in. And out of the office window, you'd look down into the bay, and they're building a full-scale B-24 down there with the welders and the props, and we bought an old British Pembroke, a 1950s spy plane that had a similar cockpit shape. And we took that apart and put the motors in. So you think of all the little homeschool kids geeking out about a craft, a homeschool project. It was the perfect fun homeschool project. And that airplane came in on a trailer, disassembled through downtown Skibbereen, Ireland, this tiny little town. It barely fit down the streets, and we dropped it off on the backlot of this little stage. So all those things are happening as we're then reaching out to actors and seeing who might want to play Jimmy, who might want to play these other key roles in the story. And then you need background actors, so you need hundreds of guys wearing the uniforms, and then you got to find the uniforms, and those came from L.A., came from Spain, and then you're hiring your crew and you're assembling your gear. That's all the pre-production phase. So when everything's ready, then you hit go of day one of what we call principal photography. And that's actually where you're running around with cameras. That's the shortest part of the filmmaking process. That was for us only 7 weeks. Is everything is very expensive because you have so many people on the team. You get to the end of 7 weeks, you're totally exhausted. You've eaten way too many Irish pastries, and you're ready to head back home with all the footage on the hard drives. And then you move into what's called post production. And that's the phase we're in right now. So that's all of the editing, all of the visual effects, all of the music, the sound design, the color, and putting the final versions of storytelling for the film that the audience will see. And then the last phase is marketing and distribution, where we get to share our film with the world. And so that's the film's coming out in November on Veterans Day here in the U.S. and theaters all over the country. And we're so delighted to get to share it with all of you.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is a lot of moving parts to fit together, and it's fascinating to think about. So we've talked a little bit about Jimmy Stewart and making the film. So if people go to see this in November, what do you hope will impact them? What do you want them to take away from their experience?
Well, I was talking to Kelly about this story when we first started interacting with her, and in one moment she paused and she said, "Aaron, does anybody know who my dad is anymore? Does anybody care? I mean, it's so long ago. His birthday is next week. He would have been 118 years old." And I said, "Well, Kelly, I know people know It's a Wonderful Life, and I think there's a lot of people out there who still love your dad. but I want to make this movie regardless because I want my boys and girls to know Jimmy's story so they can grow up to become men and women who lived with faith and courage and character and sacrifice like your dad did. So that's our hope, that we would be able to share the inspirational true story of a genuine hero, of someone who chose sacrifice and lived with courage, and in his darkest moments found the joy of community and friendship and faith that helped him to move into the rest of his life, and then lived with conviction, courage, and character. And he was a wonderful husband, he was a wonderful father, and he's a wonderful storyteller, and he left behind all of these stories and films that we get to enjoy. So we hope that that is what our audiences will enjoy, to meet this hero, to go on his transformative, dangerous journey, and to find hope on the other side, that they can live their lives like Jimmy did as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You mentioned that Guideposts article that Jimmy Stewart wrote. I came across that last year too, and that was wonderful to read. Just how faith was an important part of his life, and the story about his dad encouraging him to go to church when he had kind of drifted away at one point, but just reminding him that that's important to be connected to other believers and to live out your faith in practical ways. So I'm really excited about this movie. I'm excited to see it come together, and it's been wonderful to chat with you for a few minutes today. Thank you for spending time with us today.
Such a pleasure to be with you here. Thank you.
All right. Thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see you next time. Take care.